Hello and welcome back to our podcast, Take Two. We're your hosts. I'm Lindsay Fleming.
And I'm Stacy McCarthy.
And we are licensed therapists, and today we are talking about self-love.
Really important.
Very important.
Yeah.
And we're very prepared this week because you guys know I like to joke that Stacy has a notebook of 1,000,000 notes.
Not this week, though.
This week you don't.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, I have this many notes. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see.
But I do feel like self-love is something we deal with so much. We talk about it so much that it's just going to be a little off the cuff. Yeah.
But I was just laughing that you were like, oh, we're good. Because you usually have no notes. And this is a lot for me.
I know. Look at all she has, guys. She's prepared today. She's prepared.
No, barely.
So start us off. What's in your notebook?
Well, first I have written down as a check-in. So
how are you? I know Lindsay's been out of the country. She's been in Ireland for a long time.
I know. Well,
today's the first day I've seen you in.
I think this is the longest we've been apart.
I really think it is, like 15 or 16 days.
I know, it's craziness.
And you did FaceTime me Saturday.
Yes.
So that was the first time I talked to you.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And that was to get some Iowa gear. Go Hawkeyes. No, I'm good. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah.
There have been some tears, but I think we're going to talk about it on the next podcast.
Yes, we're going to talk about just like the stress and growing a business.
Yes.
And I think self-love is important even during this process because I think we're even like hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's nice that we have each other. I would imagine being in it by yourself.
I can't. We say this all the time. No, I would.
No way.
I would like to not imagine that actually.
No, thank you.
So, do you want to say anything about just Ireland in general or your trip?
No, I mean, it was my third time there in 6 months, so I think I'm good on the Ireland trips for a minute.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
But I love Ireland. It's like home away from home.
Yeah.
Most people have lake houses. I just go across the country.
I know, right?
But,
like Geneva,
yeah,
Dublin.
just jumping there for the week.
Yeah.
But
I want to go with you next summer.
I know.
Maybe.
Danny and my husband and I were planning for you to come along.
Yeah.
And we're very excited. So
whole family, not just me, right?
maybe we'll do a pod from the whole family. We'll do a pod from Ireland.
That would be amazing.
Maybe we can get Ireland to sponsor us, bring us across Ireland.
Sounds good.
Something in Ireland. Okay. But yeah, so that's why I just wanted to do check-in. How was it with me being away?
It was okay, but when you say you're glad that we have each other, it did feel like a lot like I didn't have you to bounce things off of or ask questions. I did realize how much I, enjoy working with you and need you, but there were a couple times where I was like, ooh, what should I do? Should I
I think it's like we don't realize even like 5 minutes of me just coming and sitting in your office on this couch. It's like it makes a difference.
I know. I do realize it. Yeah. So I was mostly just like working. I took a test. I took my licensure test. And so that was good. We've just been busy.
You're not going to share that you passed?
Yes, I passed. So that's good. Like we're going to celebrate
we love that.
Yeah. So I have my final clinical licensure. Cheers with our waters. Yay. All right. Perfect.
Okay. So, but now to get into self-love.
No big updates, but like we'll talk a little bit more, I think, in the next one, right? About our updates.
Yeah, I think that'll be good.
So why don't we just define self-love and talk about like why it's so important? And I would like to say too, I think self-love, and we've said this before, is really an issue, especially with women in their 20s that we see. It just seems to be a really hard time. I think it's hard for everybody. Yeah. But there are certain stages where I think it's harder.
Middle school, I think.
Yes, that too.
And I think the 20s, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think, we love to share how we come up with the ideas of the podcast. So typically it's like me or you see something on TikTok and that sparks an idea, and that's what we like to pull from and share those TikToks. But this time, it seems like this idea came from you. So you want to share where this came from?
Yeah, no, I was just talking to the girl who blows out my hair, and I was getting a little blowout, and she's so sweet, cute. And she's going to be 25. And I was just asking her, what do you think good topics would be? And she said, I really love podcasts that talk about self-love because I feel like it's so hard. Yeah. And, how do you focus on yourself and how really in a world, especially for women, I think that's kind of set up against you, that doesn't really support you loving yourself. Like, how can you love yourself? Yeah. So I agreed. I said, I think that's a great idea. So thank you.
It.
Yes.
So that's how we came up with this topic.
Yes.
But to define self-love, I think it's different for everyone, but I think about it as self-love is something to be practiced. And oftentimes it aligns with self-esteem, right? Self-love. If we have really good self-love, it boosts our self-esteem. If we don't, it
Absolutely.
A lot of times we struggle with low self-esteem. But I think our self-esteem gets wrapped up so much into comparison, other people's success, unrealistic goals we have for ourselves. So I think of self-love is, and you're going to talk more about this, but it's like how we how much we love others, like how much we love our best friends, how much we love our parents, our siblings, different people, like how much we go above and beyond for them. We give them grace. We are
that's
proud of them.
That's what I was thinking, the grace that we give other people.
And like I get so excited and proud of like for your test, this is a prime example. I was more excited for you than if I passed. You know what I mean? It's like we get so excited for the people we love. Yes. So I think it's about returning that favor to ourselves.
And I think when you say comparisons, I think that's huge. I think that's part of the problem. And I know we're always saying social media there's positives and negatives, but especially with social media, I think the comparison game is high. And I think, it's hard to love yourself when you're always looking at the bigger, better thing. So how can you kind of come back to yourself and, like you said, give yourself that love? And, you're only competing with yourself, but I think in this world it's kind of hard. So how do you put that energy into yourself instead of putting it like outside of yourself?
Oftentimes when we are struggling with self-love, what are some consequences that come from that? Like if we're not showing ourselves self-love.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing is you see it in relationships. If you don't feel good about yourself and you don't feel worthy, you don't expect. I mean, it could be friendships, it could be family, it could be relationship, but let's just say a romantic relationship. You might allow yourself to be treated in a way that you think is okay because you don't have that, foundation of self-love. So I think it can show up in relationships.
I agree with that. Relationships definitely. And I think I notice when I'm not feeling myself or feeling good or not showing myself self-love, I notice like I'm more irritable. I'm people-pleasing kind of comes back out of me. Like there's a lot of things that I think, I'm giving myself to all these other people. I'm doing things for so many other people. But in return, it starts to impact myself and my relationships and is actually like ends up working against you.
Because you're looking outside of yourself and it's like the external. But it's like, are you doing that for yourself?
Internal work, Yes. I also think that some consequences of not having self-love is that low self-esteem. We don't believe in ourselves. A lot of times people struggle. Body image can come into play here if we're not showing ourselves self-love. I love how you brought up comparison. So we really just start to feel really negative about ourselves.
Not good enough.
Yes. And I think it can turn into negative self-talk. And in severe cases, when we're really, really struggling, it can turn into like depression,
anxiety.
And a lot of our mental health our physical health, our mental health, our health in general can start to deteriorate from it.
Absolutely. I think it can. It's kind of like when we talked about confidence affecting everything. I do think the self-love is a foundation. Yes. And if that's shaky, there are so many things that it affects. So it is really important.
And I think we've been fed this narrative to look around ourselves, and we're kind of taught to compare ourselves, right? Where we're in sports and it's like first place, second place, or whatever it is. In school, it's like, what grade did you get on this? What grade did you get on that? So we're constantly comparing ourselves. And oftentimes we just get stuck in that negative comparison where it's just, like you said, I'm not good enough. All these things. So we can give some tips on how to improve your self-love. And with that, when you improve your self-love, you'll watch your relationships, all those things we talked about, improve.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I also think like waiting for the next thing to give yourself the love, or waiting for an accomplishment to feel worthy. And it's like, how do you love yourself as you are right now? And I don't think that doesn't mean that you can't have goals or that there aren't, milestones that you want to hit. But when I was talking to you, I was saying when you talk about body acceptance, I feel like in college, it was not great. And I was always thinking, I'm going to buy this outfit when I lose 5 pounds, or I'm going to go out and do this when I feel better or when I feel thinner. And it's like, well, what about like, I feel good today? Like I feel secure in myself and I'm worthy as I am. And I think that's something to work on too.
Yeah. I like how you said worthy, because that's kind of what you're saying. Like my body right now is not worth that outfit. Yeah. But once I lose that 5 pounds, then
I'm worth it. Then I can start to live my life. Then I can be okay with myself.
Then I'll be happy.
And we've talked about this too, especially with your body. Like the needle can move and you still feel the same because it's an inside job. It's not about the number. It's about how you feel. Because I think I have felt much more secure and better, heavier than I have lighter. So I don't think the
number is not necessary.
It doesn't matter. It's about how you feel internally about yourself. So just to know, I think when we give tips, what's a tip for how can I feel good today as I am?
Yeah. And self-worth comes in many different ways. The way that we talk to ourselves about the way we look, about how like smart we are in relationships. Like there's a lot of different ways
how
to show
we deserve
yourself
to be
self-love.
treated in a relationship.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we kind of pocketed this into 2 ways to show yourself self-love. So 2 pillars of self-love. We said self-reliance and self-compassion.
Yes.
And then we're going to share a little bit on what we think of what goes under that umbrella of self-reliance or self-compassion. So starting with self-reliance, I think about the idea of really like building that trust within yourself, and holding yourself accountable.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think that there's ways that you can practice this. And one that I share was like, I remember my friends, I would put on outfits and I'd be like, which one do you like better? And even if I felt more comfortable in one, but they said I looked better in the other, or I thought I looked better in the other one, I would go with what they said.
I think that's still hard.
Yeah.
That piece of it. Like if somebody says, oh, that looks really good on you. And if I didn't think it did, I'll be like, oh.
They must be right.
Right.
And I think that especially things that are opinionated, right? Like it's an opinion of what outfit is cuter or looks better. Yes. But I think making life decisions I remember even deciding where to go to college. My friend Grace was like, this is where I'm going. And I wasn't like, oh, what would be the best for me? I was just like, oh, okay, I guess that's where I'm going. It's like when we make decisions and we're reliant on other people, I think that can get in the way of showing ourselves self-love. So an easy way to show yourself some self-love is by trusting your decision-making skills. And this
how do you do that? Like starting small.
Yeah,
I think we talk about this all the time. Like we're always like build awareness and start small. So what would a good example
I love what you just said, build awareness. So first we're noticing how often am I asking people, what do you think I should do? Even like where to eat, what to buy. Like I feel like we're often.
Well, and do you feel okay? Do you feel okay saying this is what I want? Not just saying I don't care.
And I think it's okay for me to text you and be like, hey, I want to buy these, like we were just talking about how much I love your pants. Like if I was like, I found these pairs of pants, which ones do you like best? And it's okay to get people's opinions.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, being like, what do I want or what do I like?
Not to change who you are or what you think because of someone's opinion. I think so too. Of course, we're always going to ask someone's opinion and maybe that will help us. But let's say like I really liked something and you don't like it. I don't need to change it because you don't like it. Right, that's okay. So it's getting to know myself. What do I like? What do I need? And taking the time to do that and feel okay with that.
Because when we become reliant on other people to make decisions, we lose that confidence in our own decision-making skills. And so what happens when we start to make those smaller decisions for ourselves is we learn to be more confident, and that hires our self-esteem, things like that.
And then I think you feel better when you are not so dependent on that external validation and those opinions. And I mean, this is something we say again too, but I think there's so much freedom in knowing it's okay if other people don't agree with me, or it's okay if I choose something, if I would choose something and you disagree, like that's okay.
Yeah. Like I think with my wedding, like picking out my wedding dress, like and like having a lot of opinions.
That's a lot because a lot of people are coming.
Yeah. But I loved my dress and people were like, but I loved it. And on the day of, everyone's like, oh, it looked really good. So it's just like, but what I found it really hard. Like I cared so much about, I want everyone's opinion on things. Like back in the day, if I was who I was in college, I would never have just picked a wedding dress, which is me and my sister there. I would have wanted everyone's opinions. But what I noticed is that like the underlying why is it hard to make decisions for ourselves? Yeah. It's the anxiety of what if I make the wrong decision?
And what will other people think? Because I guess if you're okay with it, then it's fine. But if you are worried about the other people, that's the external anxiety of what are they going to think of this decision?
And I think going back to people in their 20s, I hear a lot of people being like, well, my mom thinks I should get this job, or my dad said that this is a waste of time. And although I think parents have a lot more like experience and they know their kids better than I probably even do as a therapist. But I think what happens sometimes is like, this is your time as you become an adult to make those decisions. That's important feedback to take in, but you deciding for yourself, is this what you know yourself best, what's best for me? And I think it's easier when you my dad told me to do this. So if it doesn't work out, it's my dad's fault. It's not my fault. Right. But real confidence and self-love with decision-making comes from the ability to say, okay, I made this decision with the information I had at the time. And if it doesn't work out, it's not sitting there saying, oh my gosh, I'm horrible at making decisions. I can't do this. Like,
and it's okay if it doesn't work out. I think if you can take some of the power away from that too, it's easier to look internally and be like, okay, if it doesn't work out, I can handle it.
And I can pivot.
Yes, but I am going to go with what I think. And if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to like beat up, I'm not going to go negative self-talk. I'm not going to berate myself. So
if you think through, you make a decision for yourself. This is how you learn what you need in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes when we're self-reliant on other people, we're not living a life for ourselves.
Yeah,
we're
so it's
living
almost
our life of other people's choices.
Being accountable. And I think that leads us to the next pillar is self-compassion, which I think is on the other side of self-reliance. Because what we just said, if you make a decision and it doesn't work out, that's okay.
Yes.
It's being kind to yourself. And we always like to say, how would you treat your best friend? So this is a great place to talk about that. Would you speak to your best friend about their body, about their looks, about the job they chose, about the dress they chose? Would you say the things to your best friends that we internally say to ourselves?
Never.
And I think we're our own worst critics and we can really beat ourselves up. And I think it just takes, really like a retraining of your brain to switch over from that negative self-talk to something that's more supportive of yourself. So ask yourself, would I say this? Like, would I say that to you?
No,
would I say,
that.
you know what? I think maybe if you lost 5 pounds, you could get that outfit. Never, I would say no. You look fabulous, of course.
Exactly. And with self-compassion, even with decision making, how we were talking about earlier, it is that ability to say, like, it's okay if I make the wrong choice. How can I grow from this, or what can I just accept? That radical acceptance of accepting ourselves where we're at. To your piece of like not comparing yourself, I get a lot of my clients telling me like, oh, I didn't get as many likes on this Instagram as my last Instagram, so that means like I don't look good or this. And so it's just the obsession with too, like, where are we getting our validation from?
Yeah, and if you don't have that core sense of self, that does feel so bad. But if you love yourself and you're like, no, I'm worthy, and these likes don't really mean – they don't have to mean nothing, but they don't mean everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think that's where the compassion comes in with,
and that's a good way to, I like how you said that, that's a good way to lead into like, how can you practice self-compassion? I think like one way is this idea of like, you don't have to jump to the extreme of like don't matter at all. Or like you said, or like,
you have to be realistic.
Yeah. Like put it in the gray area. Like it's okay to say this isn't everything.
Right.
Like I said that.
Right. Or even with the body acceptance, I might not love all the choices I made today with the way that I ate, or there might be things with my body that I don't love right now, but I do love myself and I'm worthy no matter, what I think.
Yes. So I think when people have really negative self-talk about their body and there's this push to be like, I love my body, I accept it, I think it's too hard.
If it doesn't land with you and you can't believe it, it just like falls on deaf ears. I just feel like it doesn't land. You have to say something, even if it's body neutrality. I don't think you have to say, I love the way my body looks. I think you can say, my body works for me. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it gets me places. It's, like
this is the body I've been given.
Yes.
And I accept that.
Yes. I've had 3 kids, like everything that your body has done for you. So looking at it like that instead of saying, oh, I really love my legs, probably not going to happen. You know what I mean? And that's okay. And I'm okay with that now. But I think it's a process too. And I do think you tell me what you think because I am older than you. But I mean, like even just looking at like where you were maybe like high school to now, I think with age it does become easier because I think things fall off and don't seem as important. And I think self-love has been easier, at least for me, as I've gotten older.
Well, and I know this has become, it's supposed to be about self, but I feel like we're talking a lot about body image, which maybe we should do its own episode on that. But I also wonder, I hear a lot of my friends now, like aging is such an anxiety. And I think we need to show ourselves some self-love around aging.
Right. That everybody can make the choice to do what they want to do. If you feel great, you don't have to do anything, but not to feel the pressure of having, like, I love myself if I look a certain way. Yeah, I think that's all tied into self-love.
And so I think when we look in the mirror, if our only thing is just awareness, right? So showing yourself self-love and self-compassion as far as aging, we could say, right? When you look in the mirror and if our automatic thoughts are like, oh, I haven't, like for me, I'm speaking in my personal experience. Oh my gosh.
Don't talk about me.
My forehead, I feel like my wrinkles are so like more prominent, or like I'm getting wrinkles around my eyes or my smile lines, like things that I would never think about 5 years ago. But also a lot of people, like if friends are talking about that, like seeps into my brain of like, oh, I should look at mine. What are mine looking like?
And that's kind of a comparison piece too, right? Like, does it matter to you or does it not matter?
Yes,
So
exactly.
And when you talk about the mirror, I know we've both done this with clients, and this is a tool that we love to help support self-love, is to take a sticky tab, and you don't have to do it on a mirror, but like people do, and every day write something positive about yourself and put it on the mirror. And every day you repeat it to yourself. I've had people put it in a notebook because if you're in a house with other people, you might not want it in a mirror, but I've seen it on a mirror. But just so that you're reminding yourself of the things that you really do love about yourself, because we've asked people, what are positives or what do you love about yourself? And sometimes people can't come up with one thing. And that to me is shocking. But then the more you talk to them and you bring it out of them, it's like you almost have to like bring that into their consciousness and then you pay attention to it. It's like where you put your attention, that's your focus. So if you're really focused on like the negative and your lack of, and I don't have this and I can't do this, that's where your energy is going to go. But I think this exercise will help you put your energy towards, wait, what are my positives? How can I love myself? What do I appreciate already about myself?
I love that. And I think if it's hard, if like you said, if you, like maybe you're in college and you don't have, you have a shared bath, like room or whatever, if that's not possible. I also think about anytime before you go into the shower or while you're in the shower doing it, just making a routine, a habit. Yeah. So we're at least doing it sometimes. Like I love how you said every morning but it becomes really powerful when you're able to look at yourself in the eye in the mirror, which is really hard for some people, but it does, the impact is greater.
I've heard that, and I've also heard, there's a book called Good Morning, I Love You. Have you heard of this book? And they talk about how saying it out loud, and it does seem silly.
It seems so
silly. I'm not going to lie.
And if you're feeling uncomfortable, even at the thought of it, you're not
feeling
alone.
Uncomfortable here saying it. But I read a little bit of this book and I did like it. And there's, something to the science of actually saying it out loud, to look to your point in the mirror and say, "Good morning, Stacy, I love you."
Oh, I like that.
And it does sound ridiculous, but it lands. And then I think if you do that and then you can, get in the shower and say the things, or you can write the things on the mirror or in a notebook and really just start to bring out, like, what do I like about myself?
Yeah.
And, you're worthy of love just as you are.
That's a great specific thing you can practice from what you were talking about. If our thoughts are constantly comparing and negative about ourselves, we're just sprinkling in a little positive self-talk for a moment.
And something that you can actually buy into. Yeah. You don't have to go super crazy positive if that's something that you're not going to believe.
I also think in 20s, and if we're talking specifically too about women in their 20s, I see a lot of lack of self-love in spaces of where they are career-wise, or there's people are flying around doing all these trips, or with bachelorette season, wedding season, things like in my life that are happening. I hear a lot of people to this comparison of like friendships, of like not having the big friend group, or like what people post on social media where it looks like it's like everyone's going on these trips. And I think the transition from college to out of college, it can feel really isolating. I don't know.
Yeah, and what is it? Yeah. No, I don't know. Something about the 20s is obviously very hard because we always come back to it, but I think we both have clients in their 20s. But I think, what is the story that you're telling yourself about that? And I think if you have that basis of self-love, you're not going to tell yourself the story, I'm not good enough, that's why I don't have friends, or people don't like me, that's why I don't have friends. I think you can see that. And even if you wish you had that, I don't think you make it about you.
Yeah. I like that. I also think sometimes what we do is we compare what we, first of all, like you said, it's like not even maybe realistic, but what we see online, oh my gosh, this person, they have the perfect life, right? They're going on these trips with all of their friends. We're comparing what we see as their biggest thing that we want to the thing that we think we're lacking the most.
And that's also like where you put your focus, right? Are you focusing on the thing that you don't have? Or how can you focus on what are you doing well?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like saying that in the shower or writing that on your Post-it card. Maybe it's not with your friendships. Maybe it's, something you did at work, or you're spending time with your grandma who you love, or you're starting to bake and you're taking a cooking class. Whatever it is, you don't have to put your energy so much towards the thing that makes you not feel good.
I like that. I think true self-love, like you said, it's not this like, where am I on the journey of life, but what kind of life do I want to create? Do I want it, like you said, like me, I love my Nana.
I know, I think that's why I said it, I'm like, I love grandma. I love you too. I love my grandma too.
And I got to meet your grandma, which is awesome.
And I got to meet your grandma.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's actually amazing.
Oh, grandmas.
We both have really great grandmas.
I know.
So that's important and stuff like that, but sorry, I just interrupted you.
No. But that's what I'm saying, like, to your
things
point.
That you might not think of.
I had to miss a bunch of work to go to Ireland, but I got to spend time with my grandma, which was important to me. So it's like, could you berate yourself? Have more clients, and could we be doing more if I was home? Probably. But to me, what I want my life to look like is spending time Like, that's important to me.
And tapping into that's a good example because you can make that a positive or negative. You could either focus on the fact
you're missing so much work.
Right. You're missing and you didn't get to do this and I'm so stressed. I shouldn't have done this. But no, you spent time with somebody that you love.
Yes.
And you put energy into that relationship and that was worth it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like the idea too. And maybe this is part of the take two. When you do something, really just building that awareness and saying, am I showing myself self-love?
Oh, I like that. So how would people, do you have an example, or how would people do that?
I mean, I think the example that you just gave is great. Let's just say you started going down that path, which we have had a lot going on and been stressed.
Yeah.
If you start going down that path of why have I done this and I shouldn't have this, and you start to kind of berate yourself, just to stop and say, am I showing myself self-love? And is there a different way that I can frame this where I'm focusing a little bit more on the things that I appreciate about myself?
Yeah. I like that. Is this what I want?
Yeah. Is this, and again, we always say, like, is this who I want to show up as?
Yeah.
But as always, it's build the awareness. We keep coming back to that's the take two.
Yes.
Almost
mantra.
almost always. But, how can you build that awareness of if you're showing yourself love and if you're not, where, what are some different ways that you can do it? Because it is really important. And I think especially in relationships, it's important so that you realize, you deserve to be treated in a loving, caring way.
Yes.
And you're worthy.
I agree. And working as a partner with your friends and significant others to like help gain that self-love. Like, I think one thing that I love about our friendship, whatever kind of relation, work wife.
Oh yeah. Everything.
Is like
partner. I just call you my partner.
I know. My partner.
Do with that what you want.
I think it's nice that it's never like I use, and my friend group is really good about this too. Like, we're so excited for each other's successes. It's never like, that doesn't make me feel any less than. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like we celebrate each other so much that it builds you up.
But you have to have that self-love in order to do that, because if you didn't love
when
yourself,
we have insecurities,
then it would get filtered through, I'm not doing this, so I can't really be happy for you.
Yes.
I totally agree with you. So yes, in relationships, I think you're going to show up healthier, and then you're going to expect healthier, because I also think, and to be fair, some people have not been shown love unconditionally. So self-love might be harder to get there, to break some of those patterns of accepting bad behavior.
Yeah.
Or like not setting boundaries because you don't feel like you're worth it, or feeling like you have to stay in a bad friendship or a bad relationship or a bad partnership, whatever it is.
Because
do you know what I mean?
You think you deserve,
because that's what you think you deserve.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think we don't all start at the same, starting line.
And I have a lot of teen girl clients, or just that in like being a coach, like, right, I get to interact with kids a lot. Yeah. A lot of teen girls in my life.
You do.
I think exactly to your point, especially when we're at the most vulnerable ages, if somebody does come into our life and we start a relationship with someone who might be really great in the beginning, but then they start to really talk down to us.
Show you who they are in a negative way.
Yeah, it starts to impact how we view ourselves in the world. And to your point, many times I've had to help girls relearn, like, you deserve so much more than this.
Yes.
And and back to that question we always say, I'm like, if this was your best friend, would you say, yeah, it's okay this person said that to them, or it's okay that they...
Or I deserved it.
Yeah.
Like, people that try to absorb somebody else's behavior, I think that's where self-love can come in too. Oh no, but I made this person mad, or oh, I did this too. And it's like, no, you're worthy.
Yeah.
Just baseline.
Yeah.
You're worthy and deserve to be treated well, and as you should treat others well.
And I think the clarification of it's okay to understand why someone did something, or why, they are having a bad home life. So it's okay that they're taking it on me. I'm there to support them. It's like, it's okay to understand this is maybe where they learned that behavior. This is where this is coming from. It's an and I will not be spoken to that way.
And you don't
deserve to be treated this way.
And when you love yourself and you have been shown love, I think it's easier to know that that's not okay.
Yes.
So I think that's where we sometimes help people and see people are kind of all over the map in terms of where they are in the self-love journey. But that's okay, because again, it's, making little changes, talking to yourself differently. And
it's lifelong.
Yes, you can make it a goal. And I mean, I think, what is more important? Nothing.
I think early in my, maybe when we first started the practice, I feel like I was really self-loving myself up and down. And as we've grown and just like business gets more stressful, I feel like the more stressed I get, the less self-love I show myself. So that's something I take to notice. Like I built self-awareness. Like I took a couple minutes the other day and I was like, wow, when I'm stressed, I like just tell myself I'm the worst therapist. I'm like...
Yeah, and I think that's probably nature. Do you know what I mean? And it makes sense because it's like you're stressed and then you get anxious and then you're like not thinking as clearly, but just to be able to kind of zoom out and notice it.
And to your point, say, how can I show myself
some self-love?
Yeah. Which, let's go over again. So what were our ways that you can show yourself self-love? One that I said was by being able to... make decisions for yourself, like even small decisions. You can take advice, but make the decision for yourself.
Don't be having external validation as your motivation.
Driver. Mm-hmm. I want to add to that because I had it on here, but we skipped it, was like health choices.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think by this morning I went for a walk because I knew I was coming off of this trip. I was so stressed. I'm like, I need to show myself some self-love.
Yeah.
So me and Danny went for a walk this morning and I felt so good. Great way to start the day. Yeah. So I made a choice to like move my body. So it's like when we make healthy financial, food, movement choices, again, these are all different ways to show yourself self-love.
Yes. And then I talked more about showing your self-love through self-compassion. Mm-hmm. So that is kind of the other side of the spectrum when things get harder, knowing that's okay. You know, and that doesn't mean you're not doing well or that doesn't mean you're not worthy. Mm-hmm. And just being aware of that and taking the time to really notice the negative self-talk, notice the criticism, and do some of those things, writing it down or saying positives to yourself or you love yourself, whatever it is. Just really being proactive and deliberate about bringing that compassion into your life. And always, as we say, saying to yourself, would I talk to you this way?
Yeah.
Would I tell you?
That's what you can do is to say.
And even just, they always say, oh, your brain, your brain is listening. And even when you're joking, your brain is listening. When I make mistakes, I'll be like, oh, I'm so stupid. Yeah. Or that was so stupid. And I really have tried to dial it back. I mean, especially in front of my kids to say something a little more gentle, like that was silly, or
was silly of me. Like
just
that,
something even like a reframe where it's not so harsh against yourself.
Yes.
So I think it's like a spectrum of relying on yourself and making the decisions and trusting yourself, but then also being compassionate. Yes. And when things go wrong, seeing yourself through the lens of you're worthy anyway.
Mm-hmm. So for you, a lot of it's building self-awareness and self-talk.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like. And I like too how you just gave another one as we're summarizing.
What was it?
I like that one because that is one I was talking about this weekend too. It's like taking yourself out of the choices we make, whereas like you're like, I'm so stupid. And instead he said that was silly of me. So it's like instead of saying like you're a bad kid to your kid, it's like you made a bad choice.
Yeah.
So I think even with self-love, it's like really paying attention to the way we talk to ourselves and reminding yourself your brain's always listening.
Right. You know what?
So I
don't know if this is funny, so we can see if it stays in. But I made a mistake with the rug at IKEA this weekend. We had a big snafu where they didn't deliver this rug. No, it was their fault.
This rug has been the death of us.
We should just have a whole episode on IKEA rugs. But so I went yesterday and got the wrong rug again, brought it here. And then I was laughing because I go, well, the first mistake.
Well, and IKEA isn't closed. So she drove all the way to IKEA
twice,
to get
two
this
times.
rug.
And IKEA is also not fun. I liken it to like, I don't know, what's like not fun because it's so crowded on the weekend.
I know. Oh, yeah. You went on a weekend.
Yeah, I did. Wow. I went on a Sunday. And Ella went with me once and my mom went with me once. So thank you to both of you. But I said, okay, well, IKEA made the first mistake. Mm-hmm. And then I was laughing and I said, well, and the second mistake was made at IKEA. But notice I never said my own name. So when I was telling Paul, I said IKEA made a mistake and then there was a mistake made at IKEA, but I don't know if it's
we don't have to get to the details.
I don't know if it's not taking ownership, but I would like to frame it as just me loving myself and just being like, you know what?
Let it go.
Maybe you don't pay attention to details, and that's okay because there's a rug out there, and I could have berated myself, and I do think this is like when I would have been younger, it's something I would have been embarrassed about. Like, why didn't you pay? Yeah. Yes, I think I used to get very shamey about things because I do not pay attention to details a lot. Why did you do this? Or like not wanting to tell him, and I was cracking up telling him, and I was laughing telling you, and it's like, okay.
No.
Yeah. I made a mistake. This was the rug, but nowhere did my name appear in that scenario. So
I love it. We got the rug.
We got the rug, and it looks good. And so just like a reframe that doesn't that makes you feel better, that shows yourself self-love.
Yeah, and especially when we're in stressful situations, it's the best time to show us self-compassion.
It's when you need it the most, and that's when it's the hardest. So that's why being aware and taking two.
And if it does become, wow, this is a pattern of behavior I need to work on, like self-accountability or things like that, that is when we build the awareness and we find ways to tweak that. But in the moments of high stress, we show ourselves self-love.
Yes, exactly. And that's when sometimes maybe you reach out and you get some support. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a therapist.
Yeah,
but
I love that.
Show yourself a little self-love.
Okay, so that's the end.
Well, yes. And we always say where people can listen to us. So you can find us on Instagram at take2.pod and on TikTok at take2pod. Mm-hmm. But we're supposed to also mention.
Hit it. You got it.
Me to do the whole
thing? You got it. You're on a roll.
I'm bringing it home. You can also find us on YouTube at... Ooh, this is where, what is it?
Pod.
Oh, just Take2Pod? Okay, on YouTube at Take2Pod. So if you would rather see us instead of listen to us, you can also go to Take2Pod. And again, we're going to ramp up the social media. We've just been traveling and it's been a little while, but we're showing
ourselves self-love.
We're showing
and saying it's okay. We'll get there.
We're going to get there. So thank you guys for listening and
sharing and commenting and rating and everything. We appreciate it all.
Yeah, we love the feedback.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Take Two podcast. Lindsay and Stacy are licensed therapists, but they aren't your therapists, and this podcast is not therapy. Production assistance is provided by Bird Blue Creative at bird.blue.